So, guys, let me continue. Again, I was disconnected. So, as I was saying, why it is so important to actually consider your divine masculine's thoughts and feelings and sensitivity and vulnerabilities is because it took him a lot of courage to actually come back to you. So instead of lashing out at him or drawing boundaries, so that's why I wanted to redefine what drawing boundaries means, because there's this toxic divine feminine empowerment that goes on where, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. But remember, every journey is very unique. There is no need to do this or no need to do that. What you actually got to do is to be in the moment and to respond to your divine masculine with the unconditional love that you have always given. But back then you gave it to him from a wounded feminine perspective. But now, with your awakening divine feminine essence, you can give that same love without ego, without triggers, but from a pure place of love and devotion to the journey. So that's what's going to make your reunion with your divine masculine very special, because you're no longer bound by the ego or the mind telling you to do this and telling you to do that, because the mind is reacting from fear that your divine masculine is going to betray you again, is going to hurt you again, is going to sabotage you again. But the reality is you're both in very different places right now. You are no longer in a place of being overly loving, love bombing, uh, being with him without boundaries. No, that's untrue. Back then when you had first met him, you were projecting that wounded feminine onto your wounded divine masculine counterpart. So he thought you were a love bomber, you were giving love to him. So you're giving so much love to him that it almost looked fake. And he was thinking that you had an hidden agenda or something like that. But that was his wounded masculine reacting to you. But now it is the awakening masculine that's reaching out to you. And what he wants to say to you is, he's not going to come in and ask you for forgiveness. That's what they do in 3D relationships. Come on, guys. This is a twin flame connection. You have to raise the standards. When your divine masculine actually comes back, he's not coming back to just apologize. He's coming back to show you that he has evolved. He's coming back to show you the mirror of your own evolution, how far you have come. So if you're still reacting from the ego, of setting conditions on him or giving him a timeline or telling him to do this or do that, then he's going to run away again. Think of it this way. Would you want your divine masculine to ask you to do this and ask you to do that? Would you want him to control you, be possessive of you, or give you no freedom at all? But instead, that's what a lot of wounded feminines do, thinking that they're awakening, but quite the contrary. They're still reacting from their minds, they're still reacting from fear, and that's why you go back and spiral into old tendency. But there's nothing wrong with that, it's all part of the process, and then you go back to square one and start again. So the divine masculine is your mirror. So he meets you where you are at. So, for example, he reaches out to you and you're still not ready, then it's kind of like a reminder to each other, hey, there's a little bit of work to do in separation before we get back together again. That's all it means. So, what is the ideal way to respond? When he comes back Enjoy the silence. Don't rush, don't overwrite, don't bring about that wounded feminine tendencies. Instead, if he asks you via message, how are you, reply with unconditional love, unconditional freedom, devotion to the journey, and love, pureness. Reply saying that you are good and ask him subtly how he is. That's all. But instead, a lot of divine feminines would either overreact, would overwrite. But instead, just go with the flow. Let the messages come in like a string of energies coming in back and forth. Let the energies flow. Let the energies do the speaking. Do not come and do not come in and affect the flow of energies. Instead, let it flow in its own divinity. Be the inspiration. Let things grow organically. So now that it's union season, many of y'all are getting messages from your divine masculines after years and years, months and months of being in separation. So take a moment, don't be angry at him, or don't go back to the past and think that he's going to do the same thing to you over again. Well, he might not, but you are not. It's not you who should determine what he's going to do, because when you start doing that, you're controlling the narrative, you're controlling the journey. Instead, let go and trust that everything that happens is going to be different. No same incident is ever going to repeat itself. Of course, there could be little nuances, but the reality is you have changed, your divine masculine has changed, so the way you're going to even react towards one another is going to be different. But instead of falling towards old programming and assuming that this is what your divine masculine is going to do again, is only going to make you self-sabotage further. Instead, take a deep breath. If you bump into him in person, don't rush for a hug. Take a moment of silence. Listen to the energies. Listen to what is going on. Listen to what the cosmos is telling you. Choose your words wisely, but out of pureness and unconditional love. Breathe. Breathe. If you receive a text, take a moment. Don't overthink. Respond organically, respond to his question, and throw back a question exactly in the same tone and momentum as the message that you've received, so that the energies flow in the most beautiful of ways. But again, there is no mistake in the twin flame journey. Always remember, there is no mistake in the twin flame journey. So if you feel like you have reacted instead of responding, it's okay. You can try again. Remember, your divine masculine reads energies, not your words. He reads your actions, not your words. He feels your energy. So you may be wanting to pretend to be a totally different person because you're not a love bomber anymore, or you're not a person who is needy or vulnerable or a victim. Well, show it in your energies, not in your false attempts and trying to pretend to be someone else. But most importantly, remember, authenticity is what your divine masculine is looking for, and that's what you are looking for from him as well. So just go with the flow, take a deep breath in, and remember, God is with you in this journey. And finally, take a deep breath in. And remember, there's no right or wrong in the journey. Everything is divinely orchestrated. And remember, there is also a divine reason and a divine purpose behind your interaction. And if it leads to a full and wholesome union, thank God and thank heavens. Because you and your divine masculine have come such a long way in becoming an awakening masculine and an awakening feminine. May God bless you all. And finally, I've completed answering the question that was posed to me. So do enjoy. Bye bye.